Welcome back. Let us learn class 10th economics chapter 3, that is money and credit. So I'll be separating this chapter two parts, that is part 1, part 2. In this video we are going to learn part 1. Yes. So these contents of the lesson. So money as a medium of exchange. What is money? A barter system, what is commodity, and modern forms of money. In this we do have like a currency, deposits with banks, and check payments. And the third one is loan activities of banks to different credit situations. This is the two stories about two different credit situations, that is festival season and Swapna's problem. So in this video we are going to discuss all this points briefly. Okay, come on, let's learn. So the first one is the money as a medium of exchange. So the use of money spans a very large part of our everyday life. Look around you and you would easily be able to identify several transactions involving money in any single day. So here coming to what is money. So the main functions of money are distinguished as a medium of exchange, a unit of account, a store of value, and occasionally in the past a standard of deferred payment. So this is the meaning of money. So money is not everything, but money is something very important. Beyond the basic needs, money helps us achieve our life's goals and supports the things we care about most deeply, like family, education, healthcare, charity, adventure, and fun. So all these things we need money. It helps us to get some of life's intangibles like freedom or independence. So the opportunity to make the most of our skills and talents, the ability to choose our own course in life. So financial security with money, much good can be done and much unnecessary suffering avoided or eliminated. However, have you wondered uh, why transactions are made in money? So the reason is simple. A person holding money can easily exchange it for any commodity or service that he or she might want that. So here we have one question: why transactions are made in money? So here we are going to explain with suitable examples. So transactions are made in money because a person holding money can easily exchange it for any commodity or service that he or she might want. For example, if money solves the problems of double coincidence of wants by acting as a medium of exchange. If a shoe manufacturer wants to sell shoes in a market and buy rice under barter or exchange, both parties selling shoes and rice have to agree to sell and buy each other's commodities. And this creates a problem which is referred to as a double coincidence of wants. So this problem overcome by introduction of money. Here the shoe manufacturers will first exchange shoes that he has produced for money and then exchange the money for rice. You can see this pictures. So he is saying, I don't need clothes, I need shoes, and I want clothes but I don't have wheat. So during that barter system they are exchanging the things. So here we have one question: what is a commodity? Commodity is nothing but a commodity is a tangible good that can be bought and sold or exchanged for products of similar value. So here properties are produced and are sold by many different companies or manufacturers. Like a fungibility means uniform in quality between the companies that produce and sell it. So you can see this coal, gold, corn or sugar. This is called as a commodity. So here coming to the double coincidence of wants as a mutual agreement. So here Thus, everyone prefers to receive payments in money and then exchange the money for things that they want. Take the case of shoe manufacturer. He wants to sell shoes in the market and buy wheat. So the shoe manufacturer will first exchange shoes that he has produced for money and then exchange the money for wheat. Imagine how much more difficult it would be if the shoe manufacturer had to directly exchange shoes for the wheat. So without the use of money, he would have to look for the wheat growing farmer who not only wants to sell wheat but also wants to buy the shoes in exchange. So that is both parties have to agree to sell and buy each other's commodities. So this is known as double coincidence of wants. So here what a person you can observe that what a person desires to sell is exactly what the other wishes to buy in a barter system where goods are directly exchanged without the use of money. Okay, so you can see this barter system. A barter system is an old method of exchange. So the barter system has been used for centuries and long before money was invented. People exchanged the services and goods for other services and goods in return. You can see these pictures here. They are exchanging wheat to buy the apples like this. And here person is exchanging the fruits to buy the like a hen, like that, animals. So these are called barter system. So here double coincidence of wants is an essential feature here. In contrast, in any economy where money is in use, money by providing the crucial intermediate step eliminates of wants. It is no longer necessary for the shoe manufacturer to look for the farmer who will buy his shoes and at the same time sell him whatever he grown, like a wheat. All he has to do is find a buyer for his shoes. Once he has exchanged his shoes for money, he can purchase wheat or any other commodity in the market, since money acts as an intermediate in the exchange process. So that is called medium of exchange. So in this inconvenience of the barter system are like we have 3 points. Lack of double coincidence of wants, like first difficulty was that exchange of goods can take place between two persons only if each possesses the good which the other wants. So here the second point is lack of common measure of value. See, in that barter system, if incidentally two persons met together who wants each other's goods, they could not find a satisfactory value of their goods. For example, maybe some wheat will be very less weight or apples will be expensive, like that. Under such circumstances, one party has to suffer. Lack of store of value. Goods cannot be stored for a long time because their value decreases as time passes. So these are the inconveniences of a barter system. So coming to the money as a medium of exchange. So already we discussed about that. The use of money spans a very large part of our everyday life. Several transactions involving money are made in any single day. Goods are being bought and sold with the use of money. Services are being exchanged with the money, and goods are also bought with the promise to pay money later. And money is sometimes paid as advance with the promise of delivery of goods later. So all these are we can say since money acts as an intermediate in the exchange process, it is called as a medium of exchange. As the need for medium of exchange become a necessity, different materials were used as a medium of exchange. So here you can see money as a medium of exchange. Commodity or service, we need money. Money acts as an intermediate in the exchange process. It is called as the medium of exchange. A person holding money can easily exchange it for any commodity or service that he or she might want. So coming to the modern forms of money, the second point. So we have seen that money is something that can act as a medium of exchange in transactions. Before the introduction of coins, a variety of objects was used as a money. For example, since the very early ages, Indians used grains and cattle as money. So you can see these pictures. They are using grains and cattle to exchange the like a money. What we talked about, the barter system, and they also used thereafter came the use of metallic coins, gold, silver, copper coins, like that. So a pace which continued well into the last century. So all these coins they invented to exchange the goods and services. Next point, that is currency. Modern forms of money include currency like paper notes and coins. Unlike the things that were used as money earlier, modern currency is not made of precious metals such as gold, silver and copper. And unlike grain and cattle, they are neither of everyday use or the modern currency is without any use of its own. So then why is it accepted as a medium of exchange? We have one question like that. So it is accepted as a medium of exchange because the currency is authorized by the government of the country. In India, the Reserve Bank of India issues currency notes on behalf of the central government. As per Indian law, no other individual or organization is allowed to issue currency. Moreover, the law legalizes the use of rupees as a medium of payment. So that cannot be refused in settling transactions in India. No individual in India can legally refuse a payment made in rupees. Hence, the rupees is widely accepted as a medium of exchange. All we know that one. So coming to the deposits with banks. So here we have various types of bank deposits. You can see in this saving deposits, recurring deposit and current deposit and fixed deposits. So the other form of in which people hold money is as deposits with the banks. At a point of time, people need only some currency for their day-to-day needs. For instance, workers who receive their salaries at the end of each month have extra cash at the beginnings of the month. So what do people do with this extra cash? They do deposit it with the banks by opening a bank account in their name. Banks accept the deposits and also pay an amount as an interest on the deposits. In this way, people's money is safe with the banks and it earns an amount as interest. So people also have the provision to withdraw the money as and when they require. Since the deposits in the bank accounts can be withdrawn on demand, these deposits are called as a demand deposits. You can see this bank deposit, that is demand deposits and time deposits. So here demand deposits offer another interesting facility, that is, it is this facility which lends it is the essential characteristics of the money, that of the medium of exchange. You can see you would have heard that of payments being made by checks instead of cash. For payment through check, the payer who has an account with the bank makes out a check for the specific amount. A check is a paper instructing the bank to pay a specific amount from the person's account to the person in whose name the check has been issued. You can see this demand deposits are defined as the deposits payable on demand through the checks, or otherwise demand deposits serve as a medium of exchange for their ownership can be transferred from one person to another through the checks, and clearing arrangements provided by banks. They have no fixed term to maturity. So here, coming to the time deposits, are defined as those deposits which are not payable on demand and on which checks cannot be drawn. They have a fixed term to maturity. So coming to the demand deposits, we have one example. So here, demand deposits is an demand allowing anyone dealing with the bank, a financial institution, to withdraw funds without previous notice. They can withdraw any time. They don't want to give the previous notice. Like in this demand deposit, they have types like checking accounts, savings or term deposit accounts, and money market accounts. So we learned about the demand deposits. Let us try and understand how check payments are made and realized with an examples. So here we have one example, that is check payment, how they'll make. A shoe manufacturer, Mr. Salim, has to make a payment to the leather supplier and writes a check for a specific amount. This means that the shoe manufacturer instructs his bank to pay this amount to the leather supplier. So here the leather supplier takes this check and deposits it in his own account in the bank. So the money is transferred from one bank account to another bank account in a couple of days. So the transactions is complete without any payment of issue. So you can see this account number, and they wrote their name and how much money they are going to send. So here check number and coding used by banks and branch number, everything they here mention. So this is called check payments, that the person will transfer amount from his account to another accounts. So this is the example of demand deposits. So thus we see that demand deposits share the essential features of money. The facility of checks against demand deposits makes it possible to directly settle payments without the use of cash. Since demand deposits are accepted widely as a means of payment along with currency, they constitute money in the modern economy. You must remember the role that the banks play here. But for the banks, there would be no demand deposits and no payments by checks against these deposits. So the modern forms of money, currency and deposits are closely linked to the working of the modern banking system. So coming to the loan activities of banks. Here you can see, let us take the story of banks further. What do the banks do with the deposits which they accept from the public? So there is an interesting mechanism at the work here. Banks keep only a small proportion of their deposits as a cash with themselves. For example, banks in India these days hold about 15% of their deposits as a cash. This is kept as a provision to pay the depositors who might come to withdraw money from the bank on any given day, since on any particular day only some of its money depositors come to withdraw cash. So the bank is able to manage with this cash. Banks use the major proportion of the deposits to extend loans. There is a huge demand for loans for various economics activities. We shall read more about this in the following sections. And banks make use of the deposits to meet the loan requirements of the people. In this way, banks mediate between those who have surplus funds, surplus funds means the depositors, and those who are in need of these funds like borrowers. Banks charge a higher interest rate on loans than what they offer on deposits. So the difference between what is charged from the borrowers and what is paid to depositors is their main source of income. So like this, the loan activities of banks we can see. And here you can see people make deposits here, money and credit loan activities of the bank. I can give these pictures that you can understand better. Here bank, people make deposits and people make withdrawals and get interests and depositors. Here people take loans and people repay loans with interest. So like this, the like a rotation of this banks make use of the deposits to meet the loan requirements of the people. In this way, banks mediate between those who have surplus funds like a depositors and those who are in need of these funds like borrowers. So banks charge higher interest rate on loans than what they want. So like this, the banks will work. And coming to the two different credit situations. A large number of transactions in our day-to-day activities involve credit. In some form or the other, credit means loan, refers to an agreement in which the lender supplies the borrower with the money, goods or services in return for the promise of future payment. Let us see how credit works through the following two examples. So those are examples like a profit of credit in the festival season, loss due to the credit Swapna problem. We have two case studies that we can understand how it will be different credit situations happen. So here festival season. It is a festival season 2 months from now, and the shoe manufacturer, his name is Salim, has received an order from a large trader in town for 3,000 pairs of shoes to be delivered in a month time. To complete production on time, Salim has to hire a few more workers for stitching and pasting work. He has to purchase the raw materials to meet these expenses. Salim obtains loans from two sources. The first one is he asks the leather supplier to supply leather now and promises to pay him later. The second one is he obtains loan in cash from the large trader as advance payment for 1,000 pairs of shoes with the promise to deliver the whole order by the end of the month. At the end of the month, Salim is able to deliver the order, make a good profit and repay the money that he had borrowed. So in this case, Salim obtains credit to meet the working capital needs of production. So the credit helps him to meet the ongoing expenses of production and complete production on time, and thereby increases his earnings. So here credit therefore plays a vital and positive role in this situation. And now coming to the second case study of that Swapna's problem. Here in Swapna's case, the failure of the crop made loan repayment impossible. Here we have Swapna, a small farmer. She grows groundnut on her 3 hectares of land. She takes a loan from the money lender to meet the expenses of cultivation, hoping that her harvest would help repay the loan. Midway through the season, the crop is hit by pests and the crop fails. Though Swapna sprays her crops with the expensive pesticides, so it makes little difference. She is unable to repay the money lender, and the debt grows over the year into large amount. Next year, Swapna takes a fresh loan for cultivation. It is a normal crop this year, but the earnings are not enough to cover the whole loan. She is caught in debt. She has to sell a part of the land to pay off the debt. So this is the situation of Swapna's problem. In Swapna's case, the failure of the crop made loan repayment impossible. She had to sell part of the land to repay the loan, like a credit, instead of helping Swapna improve her earnings, left her worse off. So this is an example of debt trap. So here we have in rural areas, so the main demand for credit is for the crop production. So the crop production involves considerable cost on seeds, fertilizers and pesticides, water, electricity and repair of equipments, etc. So there is a minimum stretch of 3 or 4 months between the time when the farmers buy these inputs and when they sell the crop. So farmers usually take crop loans at the beginning of the season and repay the loan after harvest. So repayment of the loan is crucially dependent on the income from farming. So in Swapna's case, the failure of the crop made loan repayment impossible. She had to sell part of the land to repay the loan. Credit, instead of helping Swapna improve her earnings, left her worse off. This is an example of what is commonly called as debt trap. Credit is in this case pushes the borrower into a situation from which recovery is very painful. So here you can see a debt trap is defined as a situation in which a debt is difficult to impossible to repay. Typically, because high interest payments prevent a repayment of the principal, the borrower will continue to pay high percentage to float the loan across longer time periods, effectively placing them in a debt trap. So in one situation, credit helps to the increase earnings and therefore the person is better off than before. In another situation, because of the crop failure, credit pushes the person into the debt trap. To repay her loan, she has to sell a portion of her land. She is clearly much worse off than before, whether credit would be useful or not. Therefore, it depends on the risks in the situation. Risks in the situation and support in the case of loss. So here we have we learned two cases. One is positive role and another is negative role. Here positive role, that is Swapna took loan from the money lender to meet the expenses of cultivation. Her crop failed last year and so she took a fresh loan, but the earnings were not enough to close her loan. So she fell into debt trap. And negative is here Salim's case. So we learnt about debt trap also. So with this I am going to end this part 1. I hope you understand this lesson. If you like my video, please subscribe, like, share and comment below. Thank you for watching.